which is very typical of Toyota versus, well, we have an Almera at the back.
Should we hijack it and then make this
a trio? Hi, Autophiles. Bo and Subhash here.
We're doing something different this week. We got two of Malaysia's hottest B-segment sedans.
Correct.
And next week we're getting the Nissan Almera, but we couldn't schedule it at the same time. But we just wanted to just have a look at these two cars since they're relatively new and see what's the pros and cons of each car.
At least 20 to 30% of Malaysians are in the 80,000 ringgit purchase bracket. Nowadays we have a little bit more choices, but this two still is the primary contender. Okay, so let's look at the differences between the two cars.
Okay, so this is the Vios facelift. Actually, it's the second facelift.
Oh, is it?
Of this generation.
I didn't know that. So a little bit of caveat here. We are supposed to get the original Vios. Unfortunately, last minute they gave us a GR Vios, but I will leave it to you to tell the difference.
This is the 1.5 GRS. So GR Sport is what they call it.
Okay.
Essentially, it's a body kit, some painted parts, so like the wing mirrors are black and all that. And interior, you get a little bit of GR badging. Not a little bit, it's everywhere basically. And
black rims,
but the engine is the same. The
suspension is a bit different.
The suspension is apparently stiffer, tuned by some GR engineers. So you're supposed to get the 1.5G, which would have been a direct competitor with the 1.5V, but this is as close as you can get.
But to be honest, it's not harsh, let's put it this way. It's really not harsh. So I do feel that it is a little bit stiffer when you're going through really rough bumps. But other than that, on normal road, it feels roughly the same. So that's the story of this Vios.
So now let's talk about the City.
Okay.
So this City is an all-new model. So the comparison is a little bit unfair, but it came out at the same time. But you know, the overall proportions have kind of stayed about the same.
Roughly the same.
I think towards the end, it's sort of sloped a little bit.
I think they found a perfect balance for that excellent interior space that you get in a City. But for that, you need this shape.
So the difference in terms of packaging is this generation, their full spec model is actually a hybrid. They call it the RS. So RS is the trim level. EHEV was the engine. So now their flagship for the City is that car. The approach that they're going for is very different from Toyota. That's the summary of these two cars. Now let's go for a drive.
Let's go for a drive. Alright, Autophiles driving the GRS Vios.
Yes, Vios GRS.
Vios GRS, okay.
So the Vios GRS, it comes with a 1.5 litre engine.
It's the same engine as the standard Vios lah.
Same engine.
Over here there is one difference, which is the suspension itself. It's changed. So I'm not going to review so much about the suspension and the way it handles it.
Ignore that.
And to be honest, I don't think it changes that much unless you're really putting it through the gauntlet of performance and or potholes. I do not know how unsporty the original is, but this is okay.
This is okay.
And it's not uncomfortable. So I think that's praising.
Besides that, CVT, but the power figure is slightly less here. It's 105 horsepower, 6,000 RPM, and 140 Newton meters at 4,200 RPM.
Okay.
So both the power and the max torque come in
a little bit lower than the City.
Immediately, my feel for this car is it's actually a decent car to do daily drives in.
That's the GR.
That's the GR suspension. All the torque you need is buried around 2000 RPM. Just to do daily driving, start-stop traffic and all that.
It's very suitable.
You barely have to touch the throttle. It just starts moving. You never have to ask the engine to wake up.
You never have to do strong throttle unless you're going crazy.
Or going uphill.
Going uphill. And this car is not a car you want to go crazy in. As a vehicle that is primarily as a mode of transport, I think this tuning is okay because all you need is just a tap on the accelerator and the car will move.
And I think it's both the engine tuning and the gearbox. Even though it's a CVT,
even though it doesn't feel as much like a CVT, which I think Toyota has done an amazing job in making it not whine rubber bandy like a CVT does.
In your day-to-day driving, most of the time it's actually done
quite well. It feels like a conventional automatic. Which is saying a lot, man. Because what most people complain about CVT is the behavior of a CVT, and you don't get that here. And I think that's quite good. That's real quality. I think fundamentally the engine doesn't sound good, but Toyota tune it in such a way that you never have to bring it up. In terms of NVH, I think I have to say it's quite good. I don't really hear the road noise. considering it's a Toyota.
Only the bikes.
Only the bike, I mean, but in the S-Class where you hear that thing.
A bit of tire noise.
A bit, but you know, this class of car, I expect it.
There's a lot of consideration put into very important day-to-day driving aspects.
And the steering is quite darty. It's like, the car has a very light-footed, darty feel to it. Like you just want to switch direction.
Yeah. The steering feel is almost, it feels like it could be mechanical, like hydraulically powered.
Almost.
It almost feels like that.
But it's not.
It's not, it's EPS.
Right.
Whereas if you go into like the previous city and all that, there's a kind of limpness, kind of one finger steering.
Yes, the old Honda disconnect.
Yeah.
Toyota, in that sense, has gotten this right more often than Honda has, which is really funny because Honda has this obsession with sportiness, performance, because they see themselves as the BMW of Japan.
Yeah, and it's inherent in their brand.
Yeah.
You know?
So recent Honda has improved significantly, but Toyota over the years has always gotten their steering a little bit better than Honda, which is very odd. Okay, comfort.
Well, we can't say much because of this GR suspension.
Yeah.
But
the seats are okay.
The seats
supportive.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, I have to say the front seats, the comfort is okay.
It's okay lah. Leg room is okay.
This car actually has a few pieces of kit that car doesn't have, and it's things that are in the G spec, not just the GR spec.
Okay.
And it's advanced driver assist systems, and you get blind spot monitor. I don't know if you noticed.
I noticed there just now.
Yeah. So blind spot monitor, rear cross traffic alert.
Right.
So there's genuine driving aids and
technology,
and it's like slightly better in those aspects. Yeah, and of course you got that driving display there, which actually I quite like because it kind of gives you like an internal contest, you know, whether you can drive better this time and all, and they make it like they gamify it. So you can go in and see.
PlayStation fight.
PlayStation fight the thing.
What's the score for its drive?
It's a 3.5.
Yeah, I concur on that point. It's good.
Yeah.
It does its job. Pretty okay. But that's it lah. There's nothing impressive here lah. I mean, maybe we give it a 0.5 because it gives you that additional.
Yeah, I would give the 3 to maybe the pre-facelift or last generation one, because they get the fundamentals right.
But that's it.
The 0.5 comes from your driver assist. It doesn't feel like the cheapest sedan that you can get from Toyota. It feels like, you know, a properly tuned car in terms of dynamics.
Honda City
1.5
1.5.
Same thing, 1.5 litre engine.
Right.
Big difference from the previous generation in that the engine now has dual overhead cam. So on paper, this car is actually very similar to the Vios.
On paper lah.
On paper.
So I think horsepower is a bit higher.
Even the gearbox, it's a CVT.
It's a CVT, and it's quite obviously a CVT lah.
Yeah. They did not hide it.
Yeah, they didn't hide the fact that it's a CVT.
Yeah. 119 horsepower.
It's a full 12? Higher than the other one?
The other one is 105.
105, so 14
horsepower more.
14 horsepower. It's significant, you know, because it's 10%.
Yeah, especially when in an engine so small. How did you extract so much extra power?
And yet the torque is higher as well.
Yeah.
What is the torque number?
The torque is like 5 Newton meters higher.
Yeah.
This is 145.
Well, that means that was 140. But there is one small difference here, is that it gives you this kind of power at a slightly higher RPM. Slightly lah.
Yeah.
Not significantly.
6,600
versus
6,000.
Yeah. Before we talk about the comparison, let's talk about the car itself.
Yes.
Steering feel is, it's very un-Honda like in the past. So now this is a lot better.
And not that one finger steering anymore.
Yes, and coupled with this steering feel, it's just so good.
It's nice. The initial impression of sitting in this car and driving it, it's just a lot more pleasant until you start moving a little bit.
Yes, let's talk about the driving characteristics. The CVT in the Vios is actually done very well.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like a CVT.
In comparison to this.
Yeah. This one, it is a CVT lah.
Yeah. There's this very big disconnect where you press the throttle.
Yeah.
The engine spools up to 2,000 plus RPM.
Then something happens.
And then the rubber band stretches and then your wheels start moving.
Yeah.
Actually, you're constantly revving up to 2,000.
Yeah.
You know, just
and it's a little bit revvier.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I think it's a tuning thing. The Honda definitely tuned this car for a slightly higher speed. So when you're running at 60, 70, 80, 90, the car is quite good, man.
Yeah. And see, it got to 60 so easily.
So fast. Yeah, so easily. Yeah. It's quite good actually. But the thing is, from standstill, the torque doesn't come instantly.
Yeah.
And because the torque doesn't come instantly, and because the engine is so revvy, you go up to 2 to 3,000 RPM very quickly.
Yes.
That means that from a standstill, there is always this intrusion of a whine that you're just trying to get the car to move, and that is absent in the Vios. Because the Vios it feels more torquey instantly.
Yes.
Whereas this, you have to work it to about 2,000 RPM. Once you get up to above 40 and 50 and 60, it's amazing. But it's that initial whine. So that's the only complaint I have. But overall, I have to say the car feels a class higher in standard in terms of refinement.
Yes. They didn't tune it to feel like the cheapest car that they make.
Definitely.
You know, they take some lessons that they learned from the Civic and the Accord, then they just filter it down into this level.
Definitely.
And I think this is maybe Honda's biggest strength. Since the old days, right? You always get the Civic back then. Always doesn't feel like the cheapest car that they
Because it's their bread and butter.
They will put in their VTEC engine, their B16 or their B18.
Right.
They'll give you independent suspension.
Right.
They didn't do that here, but you know, whatever. They trickle down their best technology and their products into their cheapest cars.
Right.
You feel the lessons that they learn in terms of steering feel, the
Definitely.
rigidity and all that.
I mean, the steering tuning is the biggest improvement I felt in Honda in recent years. They have significantly improved. But there is some refinement going on here. You see, I don't feel the same level of roughness that you feel that reverberate from the seats in that car. I still feel a little bit in the Vios, but over here, it is definitely more refined in terms of its chassis. Yeah. Even though it has less sound deadening that we identified than in the Vios, but yet this car feels a little bit more refined from the seat up and from the steering wheel side. It filters out all the unnecessary vibration. Whereas that gives you that, it almost feels like a mechanical steering. Right? This one feels
very much like an EPS.
So I personally find it quite impressive. They definitely outclass the Vios in terms of ride quality.
Especially above 40 kilometers per hour. This car really gets really good.
And this car has a confidence that I don't sense from the Vios, but maybe because the tuning of the Vios is more darty. So okay lah, I give you that lah. This car seems like it's tuned for a more stable, slightly higher speed cruising capability. The only thing this car didn't do so well is that it didn't take away that roughness or that sound that you get when you're coming from a standstill to say 20, 30 to 40 kilo an hour. Something that they really should look into. I know it is a very minor complaint, but the reality is in a city traffic, the car is designed for city. This is the most often that you will be experiencing the car in. So that is the only complaint I have. But the moment it gets to speed, it's amazing, man. Outclass the Vios. But again, expected because the Vios is very old. Credits where credits due. The CVT was tuned perfectly in the Vios. It was tuned so well.
Here there's some...
It's more CVT-like.
Especially lower speed. In terms of NVH,
road noise is slightly more apparent here. The tyre noise is a little bit more apparent here. A little bit lah. Not like I'm talking about less than 10%. This is a class above. Look at the ease in which it handles the road at 80 to 90 kilo. It is just seamless, man. It is not something I expect from a city class of cars. It is done well, I have to say. Yeah, there are complaints. This class of car, there's always compromise. But I think overall, performance, I have to give it a 4, man.
I'm giving it a 4.4.
Oh lama. Because what, 0.4 is your Honda biasness oozing
No, okay lah, fine. I will give it a 4 also. Because I have the minus points on a few things. Especially with this gearbox. I mean, it's not a terrible CVT.
It's not, it's just very CVT. So yeah, I have to give it a 4 because actually when you put it in its element, it's damn good. It's up miles. I never thought I was use that word to describe a non-continental car. You know, it's up miles at reasonable speed.
It's not an Autobahn 180 kilometers, no. But in Malaysian roads, our speeds, it's perfect.
It's perfect.
And of course you got that driving display there. A few things you can even put like anniversary reminder for your girlfriend's or wife's anniversary and all that. You know, birthdays.
Girlfriend and wife.
There's only one.
Your wife. Whose birthday is this?
So preset with the car.